Howdy folks, how we doing? I hope that you're finding the love and witnessing the blessings that are in life in these difficult times. It is hard, my friends, but we're all in this one together. So I'm offering these devotions as a little bit of hope, playing my part in being some part of the solution. I have no medical skills to offer, so I offer these devotions as a balm for the heart, the mind, the spirit and the soul. Today's devotion is titled Love, Service and Radical Amazement, Walking Your Path with Joy. So I invite us just to still ourselves and invite a loving presence to be here amongst us and to awaken from deep, deep within us. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of love, acceptance and belonging. We join together in our physical separation, but united in our devotion to life and to love. Help us to sing for joy like the birds each morning sing their faith in simply being alive and being here. May we know the deep connections that sustain us, the roots that hold and nurture us beneath the surface of our lives. May we not be afraid to explore the depths of our being, the many layers of life. May we remember that we are deeply connected in heart, mind, in spirit and in soul. May we be open to all that this day brings, to all that life offers, and may we offer our all to life itself. May our beings become vessels of love this day and all days to come. Amen. I'm going to begin today's reflection with a little piece by one of my favourites, the Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and this is on faith. He wrote, "Faith is not the clinging to a shrine, but an endless pilgrimage of the heart. Our goals should be to live life in radical amazement, to get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal, everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed." Prayer begins at the edge of emptiness. Wonder rather than doubt is the root of all knowledge. Just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy. We can never sneer at the stars, mock the dawn, or scoff at the totality of being. Self-respect is the root of discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to oneself. The primary purpose of prayer is to not make requests. The primary purpose is to praise, to sing, to chant, because the essence of prayer is a song, and man cannot live without a song. When I was young, I admired clever people. Now that I am old, I admire kind people. Know that every deed counts, that every word is power. Above all, remember that you must build your life as if it were a work of art. Some wisdom there from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. And here's a little quotation by Neil Douglas Klotz from the Prayers of the Cosmos. Help us fulfill what lies within the circle of our lives. Each day we ask no more, no less. Untangle the knots within so we can mend our heart's simple ties to others. Free us to walk your path with joy. Now, a couple of summers ago, I had the honour of serving as Minister of the Week at summer school up in Great Hucklow. The theme for the year was Walk Your Path with Joy, finding hope and resisting despair in turbulent times. I was there to serve those present and help them spiritually, mentally and emotionally through what was a deeply challenging week. It was not a holiday. I was there to serve, to minister to all present. Do you know what? It was one of the most rewarding weeks of my life. I loved the role. I loved being there, serving those people. Now, I'm often amused by people's responses to what I do as a vocation. I'm even more amused by what they sometimes call me. A couple whose wedding I recently conducted called me father, and others assume I am a vicar. I've heard of someone else calling me Pastor Dan. That's my attempt at a California accent, by the way. And I'm sure I'm called many other things too, which I won't repeat. Now, while my title is Reverend, I am a minister. And I think that's it's entirely appropriate name for what I do. Because to minister literally means to serve. And that's what I do. I serve. To minister is to serve, like minestrone soup. And I often wonder, and I'm not getting party political here, please. I often wonder though when I listen to political leaders if they're really aware of what it means to be a minister. That they are there purely to serve we, the people, and not the other way around. And of course, the Prime Minister ought to see themselves as the number one servant in the land. But sadly, power goes to everybody's head, does it not? Now, some have said I'm a bit of an unorthodox minister. I do remember a congregant once saying to me that I was like no minister that she'd ever met before. I remember saying this to some colleagues, and the Reverend Bill Darlison's response to my comment was, Danny, you are unlike any minister that anyone has ever met before. And he said it as a compliment, actually, although it could be taken another way, or many other ways, I think. But I'll take it as the compliment it was meant. So yes, it does appear I'm slightly unorthodox in my ministry, and yet to me I simply do my best to fulfil my role, to simply serve life through love, to show others the way of love and service and hope in the midst of suffering. We're in suffering now. I can't take away anybody's suffering, but I can walk with them. And in so doing, meaning emerges and despair is dispelled. I always like these words from the book of Micah, chapter 8, verse 6. He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. So I invite folks to walk with me. I'm not saying I'm God, by the way, but we can walk humbly together. It's a good question, though, that was asked that week. How do we find hope and resist despair in turbulent times? Definitely a pertinent question for all of us right now. We seem to be in the midst of incredibly turbulent times. As a whole as the world, we're facing the most challenging period in my memory, certainly since the Cold War anyway. The threat of nuclear destruction. The corona pandemic has put everyone's life in peril. Nobody is immune. Yes, some are more at risk than others. But the truth is we're all affected by this. We're all in this one together. No one can deny that now. Now, of course, I'm not being naive here. This is not new. Life has been turbulent since the beginning of time, probably. But what the events of today are doing, they're making us look, I hope, at life more wholly. As of course we ought to always do, but we don't. But I hope it's opening our senses to everything. But by doing so, you can't avoid the pain. It should hurt. It should be painful. If it didn't hurt, there'd be something deeply wrong with you, being different to the suffering of others. And that's a state of hell. Hell is indifference. And it's easy to feel powerless against this tide of suffering. How do we keep our heads up and our eyes and hearts open to one another and to life? How do we find hope in the midst of all of this? How do we find hope in the despair? Well, I believe it begins in and through service. Rabindranath Tagore said, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." It begins by bearing witness to the love and the service and the coming together that we're all witnessing on the same TV screens, and very close at hand that we see the suffering. We see ordinary people helping, holding, inspiring one another, people supporting each other, if not physically in their suffering, although some are, in love. I see it in the little things as well as the bigger things. It doesn't take away any suffering, but it brings to life the love present in each of us, a power that will always overcome the powers that divide us. To quote the murdered MP of my hometown, Joe Cox, "There is more that unites us than divides us." And this one thing this virus does is unite us, or it should. Or in the words of Harry Stack Sullivan, "We are all much more simply human than otherwise. Be we happy and successful, contented and detached, miserable and mentally discorded, or whatever. You know, we all live with the same struggles. We are all born on the one earth, live under the same sun, and I believe have the same spirit through all of us. We are all more human than otherwise. There's no difference. Nothing that separates mine from anybody else's humanity." Back to service. As we serve others, meaning emerges and we discover our own true hearts, I have discovered. It does not end the suffering, but it does create hope and meaning from that very suffering. And in so doing, we build legacies of the heart for those who follow us. As we serve others, we develop our own hearts and our own souls. In serving others, we are working on ourselves, on our own souls actually. Every act, every word, every gesture of genuine compassion naturally nourishes our own hearts and minds and souls. To serve another is soul work. To serve others, to be there for others, is the most sacred work we can do. It is the heart in action, and it brings us fully to life. In so doing, we step beyond the very real suffering that is an aspect of life. We are not consumed by it, by the despair. Meaning emerges, and even joy at times. I've certainly felt it. Through faith in life itself, by giving ourselves fully to life, we can know joy. Joy is an attribute of a full, rich and deeply meaningful life. It's radically different to fun, pleasure and happiness. These are merely emotional qualities. Joy is a spiritual quality that's always present within us, despite life circumstances. Joy is about connection, intimate connection. When I know joy, I am at one with life and at one with myself. Through love and service, we can all begin to once again awake to the amazement of life and to know joy, to realise joy. For joy, for life itself, can be known even in life's troubles and difficulties. The people Jesus spoke to 2,000 years ago were not living easy and comfortable lives. Those people knew about conflict, oppression, tragedy and almost constant grief. He told them that all was wonderful, life-giving, life-affirming, that all that is meaningful was theirs. He said to them, "Enter into my kingdom with joy," and said, "This is my commandment, that you love one another." And the kingdom he spoke of is right here, right now. we can know and experience that commonwealth, that kingdom of love right here, right now. And how? Well, by fulfilling that commandment to love one another. But I'm not talking about mushy, sentimental love here. Love is an act. Love is a way of being in the world with others. The commonwealth of love, the kingdom of all love, comes into being by giving ourselves fully to life and to one another. Through giving ourselves fully to life and to each other, we truly realise the joy of living. And in so doing, we will be awakened to the true amazement of what it means to actually be alive. Tagore said, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." And that's the purpose of the religious life, to awaken joy through service to and for one another. Joy is about connection. It's about intimate connection. When we give of ourselves to others and to life, we know the joy that is truly living. We sing it from our inner being. What is life without song? It's a song we sing through our being. That said, if we live only for ourselves and live disconnected lives, then we quickly become joyless once again, and we lose faith in God-given life. And our experience of life just becomes dull and meaningless. There is no joy. Now, some people tell me that everything in life happens for a reason, suggesting that all of life, all that happens, is part of God's divine plan. Do you know what? I don't think I've ever believed this. I think it's dangerous, really. It opens up that great theodicy question that I spoke of the other day. How can an all-powerful and all-loving God allow suffering? Question I meant to ponder. But the truth is, I don't believe that everything in life is preordained or predetermined, that the future is unwritten, that we cannot change. I believe in the lure of divine love, that all of life, on a deep, deep level, although the physicists probably disagree, is given free will. I believe it's our task to bring alive the love in life and to encourage others to do the same through our simple human example. And in this sense, we are not powerless against the tide of despair. I believe it's our responsibility to become beacons of hope to others in their suffering, to become the light of the world, if you like. Hope rises from the ashes of suffering, and meaning emerges through our living and our breathing. This is why everything matters, why every thought, every breath, every feeling, every action, every word matters. This is how you find joy in life, through love and service for others, despite the very real turbulence that we're all caught up in, that's all around us. I believe in life. I'm constantly in awe and amazement at life, despite the very real suffering present in my life and in the life of those around me. I do live in my eyes, all my senses, including my sixth sense, fully open. It's the only way to live fully alive. I know no other. I know no other way to live. And some, though, will ask, why or how can I believe this? And my simple answer to them is that this is what my 48 years of living and breathing and waking and hurting and loving have taught me. I believe in life because it constantly amazes me. But don't ask me to explain. Life amazes me constantly, despite all the darkness and destruction that is present, that can overwhelm us at times. Life and love always seems to find a way through. like the little shoot that finds its way back to life every springtime, sometimes finding its way through all the obstacles in its way, insisting on reaching out and beyond and finding life again. That amazes me. I find that utterly, utterly amazing. To quote Heschel again, our goal should be to live in life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. Through living in love and in service, I am awakened to the amazement of life. My senses are fully awake. What do I mean by amazement? You may, I'm sure you ask, what is radical amazement? Well, radical amazement captures those moments, those deeply human moments, when we find ourselves intensely connected to the mystery and the majesty of existence. It's found not so much in the big moments, when we mark life's achievements, no. It's more about what Heschel himself described as the common and the simple, those small things that reveal the infinite significance of existence. In some ways, radical amazement is about paying attention and looking deeply at the routine moments of our lives and experiencing just how incredible these routine moments are. Radical amazement has some parallels with mindfulness, something we hear constantly about. But there's more to it than that, than simple mindfulness. Radical amazement has a sense of eye-popping awe and wonder when you look through such eyes. It's about seeing the miracle in existence, how many of us truly, truly recognise and acknowledge just how amazing it is that we live at all. How amazing that is. What are the chances? Radical amazement's about looking into the familiar with what Rumi called fresh eyes. It's about recognising that even the most routine moments are actually outrageous moments. Just think about our existence here in this spinning planet rushing through a universe some 13 billion years old, or so the experts tell us. Yes, we're formed from stardust, they tell us, and yet made from flesh that are homes to entire ecosystems and billions of cells that are neatly balanced so as to allow us to exist. They are constantly altering and changing and adjusting to all that we experience. We are made from stardust, and yet we're more than merely stardust. Surely no one thinks that's all that we are. We are made up of complex thoughts, emotions, experiences, and there's a spirit, there's an aliveness in each of us. We're more than merely our biology. We are more than just thinking meat. Isn't it truly amazing and marvellous to be who we are? We need to see life with eyes wide open, through fresh eyes, something that can be hard to do in these turbulent days. When we experience and witness such suffering, but we have to look with new, open, fresh eyes if we're to live in the full amazement of existence, as much as we want to turn away, as much as it hurts. Because when we see life through such eyes, all that we are made of reacts in positive and powerful ways. Isn't that something we feel with intensity at times? I know there are times when our whole makeup responds to the whole of the makeup of the universe, and this occurs every time, I believe, we see the miracle that is in existence in new ways. And that blows me away. It's amazing. Don't you think it's amazing that we exist at all and we're aware that we exist? Isn't it amazing that everything came from nothing? Everything came from nothing. Isn't that amazing? Bang. Here we are in this fabulous place. What you gonna do here? In this sacred place, in this sacred time, in these our sacred bodies, in these our sacred lives. Radical amazement's about looking into life with truly open eyes. It's an ethical act and an intentional decision. It is the ultimate spiritual practice, and as such, it is one that involves great risk, great personal risk. Why? Because it opens us up to all that is, all that everything truly is. And that takes an awful lot of courage. Because to see the beauty also requires us to see and bear witness to the horror, which is too awful for some at times. But it's the awe that accompanies this awfulness, that accompanies this vulnerability. It's this that's required to awaken each of us to radical amazement. To see the world with awakened eyes, fresh eyes, open eyes, is to look into life in radical amazement. It's to see life as it truly is in its awe-filled beauty. It's to truly let life in and to fill us to the brim, to overflowing, to bursting. Radical amazement really is how we live and breathe our human spirituality. And at its essence, spirituality is about being amazed. It's about cultivating greater openness and deeper awareness of the beauty, the blessing and the mystery of life. Regardless of what's happening now, suffering is always an aspect of living. We cannot escape suffering. Everybody suffers. Life itself, though, is not suffering. I don't believe that's true at all. Love and joy are aspects of life just as much as suffering. And how do we experience love and joy? Well, it's quite simple, really. It comes through living through and by and with all our senses wide open, fresh and wide. It begins by simply opening our eyes and our arms. It begins in love and service. It begins by simply walking humbly with one another and humbly giving thanks that we even exist at all. That's what it means to live in and through hope. And it's this that will lift us from despair despite the very real suffering in life. It begins by looking deeply into the eyes of those around us and recognizing the amazing thing that is ours and their existence. And it continues as we look at the world in which we live and simply give thanks for life itself. For it truly is amazing that life exists at all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. May love guide us in the coming weeks. May it lead us in hope and away from despair, in spite of the very real and no doubt increased suffering that is present in our lives, in these difficult times. I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know, we don't bless enough. We need to bless more. We ought to bless more, and we can all bless, and the world needs us to bless. We all need to bless each other with our loving presence. So why not bless everything this day with your loving presence? But I invite us to be still once more for a final blessing. Let's step out into the world once more. Let us not seek the narrow path that avoids the wilderness. Let's instead walk in faith and hope and courage along love's broad highway and experience all that life offers to us. Let's live in radical amazement. Let's be amazed that we exist at all, that existence exists at all, that anything exists at all, and that we're awake to it. And may the spirit of hope inspire us as we return to our lives. May that spirit come to life, and may it do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and all that we do. Go in love. Amen.